Co-op mode in Mario games, whether it be by throwing your friends to inevitable death, or getting all the items so others can't have them. Co-op mode has been a central part in shaping the gaming experience of 2D Mario games. But this mode wasn't like this from the beginning, and was totally different from what you'd expect when you think about co-op. Up to this date, 10 2D console Mario games have been released, and only half of them have had the multiplayer mode we see today. Some didn't even have a multiplayer mode. I'm BK, and today we're going to find out about the history of co-op mode in 2D console Mario. Super Mario Bros. Was the first game of the Mario series, and the idea of playing with more than one person started from here. However, two people couldn't play at the same time then. The menu's two-player game button might make you think you can, but if you press it, the game starts identically to the one-player game, where Mario alone jumps around. When Mario dies, that's when the other player gets to play as Luigi. They would take turns playing like this, switching if the other one lost a life. So, while it technically was a two-player game, the players couldn't interact with each other and play at the same time. Just two separate characters taking turns. The next game to come out was Super Mario Bros. 2, released internationally later as Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. This game didn't have a co-op mode at all. The only choice you can make was which character to use, Mario or Luigi. These two had different physics, so you did have a reason to choose between the two, but you couldn't use both in a single game with someone else. Which was a shame, because the two-player option in the first game, although far from perfect, was still a step closer to true multiplayer mode. Same went for Super Mario Bros. 2. This game isn't exactly the 2D Mario we've all come to know and love, but it is a mainline Mario series game, and is praised by many for its own unique mechanics. Although it did have 4 characters you could choose from, you couldn't play it with a friend. So, like Super Mario Bros. 2, in Japan, you cannot play multiplayer mode. Next is Super Mario Bros. 3. I skipped the previous two games a bit quickly because they didn't have co-op mode, but this game has a few things related to co-op that we can talk about. The two-player game button is finally back in the menu screen, and the way two people play is a bit different to Super Mario Bros. Unlike that, this game actually uses the term co-op correctly. Let me explain. One person starts out as Mario, plays the game, and then switches if he dies or clears one stage. And when the switch happens, the next player doesn't go to 1-1, and instead gets the progress of the previous player. That's right, now you could actually cooperate with your friend. Still not simultaneous multiplayer mode, but it was still a step further than before. As a cherry on top, you could even play a Mario Bros. Minigame if a character picked a stage with the other's letter. And surprisingly, two people could play that game at the same time. Huh. Last of the old 2D home console Mario is Super Mario World. I'm not sure if it's because of the advancements of the SNES, but in the world map, Mario and Luigi can now appear at the same time. Doesn't mean that they can move at the same time though. Mario starts first, dies or clears a stage, and then switches to Luigi. As you've noticed, this is almost identical to Super Mario Bros. 3. There's no Mario Bros. Minigame if you go to a stage the other person cleared though, and instead, the original stage is loaded. During the NES and SNES era, there have been 5 games, with only 3 of them having co-op. Super Mario Bros., being the first game, had the least technically challenging co-op from the developer's perspective, since all you had to do was make separate games load. The other 2 started to have some semblance of simultaneous co-op, but it was still a relay game. It was after this period of time that multiplayer mode truly started to shine. After Super Mario World, the 2D home console Mario series would come to a bit of a hiatus. In the handheld department, games like Super Mario Land and New Super Mario Bros. Were released, but it was at 2009 when finally New Super Mario Bros. Wii came as the next home console game. A long time had passed and technology had improved drastically, so it had finally happened. This game implemented the first monumental simultaneous multiplayer mode. No relaying with the other player. Now you could sit on the couch and play with your friends at the same time. Allowing up to 4 people, this game's multiplayer mode made quite a lot of chaos. You could hold and throw other players, which meant that if used correctly, you could do things that were very hard or impossible as one person. But come on, we know what we did.
Ow!
Aside from the normal multiplayer mode, there was also the free-for-all and coin battle. These weren't technically co-op, but it was still a multiplayer mode. In free-for-all, you competed against each other to complete a stage, and in coin battles, you competed against each other to get the most coins. To add on a few other facts, if you ground pounded with more than 2 people at the same time, you could create a shockwave that basically killed every enemy on screen, like a POW block. Also, the addition of the yellow and blue toad was to match the player colors that basically every single Wii game used. Red, green, yellow, and blue. After the Wii U was the Wii U, and for the Wii U, New Super Mario Bros. U came out. New Super Mario Bros. U was criticized for being unoriginal and bland, and that was mostly due to it being so similar to New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Co-op mode was not an exception of that. The characters you could use were exactly the same as the previous game, Mario, Luigi, Yellow Toad, and Blue Toad. However, there was a new mode that you could use, Boost Mode. Since this was the Wii U, you could use the Wii U gamepad to aid others while they were playing. Using Boost Mode, you can make blocks that other players could traverse on. Stepping on them repeatedly filled a star meter, and if the star meter was filled, after stepping on 10 blocks, the player using Boost Mode could earn a star, where it could instantly kill enemies and make star blocks. It was an interesting mode, and obviously it wasn't as fun as just 2-player co-op, but it wasn't that bad at all. The 2 games after this, New Super Luigi U and New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, are basically remakes of the previous games, so the co-op mode in these 2 are basically the same. The only difference is the characters. New Super Luigi U has Nabbit, and New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe has Toadette on top of that. Nabbit couldn't normally be damaged except for certain types of ways, and Toadette was basically the same as Mario and Luigi except for one single way. There was a Super Crown. It was an item that made Toadette impersonate Princess Peach, which allowed her to glide and be a bit more floaty. Deluxe was the point where almost everyone thought that the 2D Mario series was lacking originality as a whole, and a big change was needed. And that came in Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Aside from the fact that the art style had changed and a lot of new systems were implemented, a lot of new characters were added. Peach and Daisy now became one of the members you could use, the yellow, blue Toad, Nabbit, and Toadette from the new Super Mario Bros. Series were still maintained, and the Yoshis were added too. Peach and Daisy were identical to Mario and Luigi, and the Yoshis were more similar to Nabbit, where they couldn't be damaged and couldn't get other items. They also had their iconic flutter jump. A big thing here to note about Super Mario Wonder's multiplayer is that there's no collision between the players anymore. That means you cannot throw each other, nor bump into each other. This may be good for those that actually want to beat the level, but it took away a lot of fun that you had in the previous New Super Mario Bros. Games. And there we have it. We have looked at every single 2D console Mario game and its multiplayer mode. To recap on Part 2's games, New Super Mario Bros. Wii started a simultaneous, interactable multiplayer mode, and this was maintained until Super Mario Bros. Wonder, where people became unable to throw each other off a cliff anymore. It was interesting to see that the gap between Mario World and Mario Wii's multiplayer was huge, and the fact that the now obvious co-op mode we see today wasn't like this before. It was thanks to the numerous games we've seen that now we can call our friends or family at a good evening and enjoy playing Mario together. Thank you guys so much for watching till the end, and don't forget to subscribe.